This is, by what I've found online on YouTube, a project that's possibly never been done. But I was at Aldi's, this popped out, and it's a little lantern kind of a deal. This says use only with LED candles, and then of course on the bottom it says warning: to prevent fire, keep burning candle within sight. So just kind of dig that. First line up there, keep burning candle within sight, and then of course use only with LED candles. Looks like candle flame, right? You've probably seen these online. Inside are all these LEDs, and down in the center is a power supply. Again, if I hook this up, and you see how that works, I'm going to see what voltage it takes to run this. Alright, so let's see what the voltage is. 3.79, 3.8. So that's 3.8 volts DC, okay? That's a familiar voltage. My idea, put the unit in here somewhat like this, and then have the flames shooting up like that. And it's going to be run on batteries. It's going to be rechargeable. This is a bigger pack. This can handle like 4 to 6 18650s. Now, to control the voltage will be this step up, step down buck converter. If I put in 5 volts, I can drop it down roughly 3.7 volts. I'm going to take a pointy and I'm going to kind of scratch and rough up where I'm going to solder. It helps give it a better adhesion. A little bit of my Radio Shack flux. Yes, they're still in business. They're online, but they're still in business. Flow, little solder, there you go. There you go, and there you go. This is good. Alright, let's take a quick look inside here. Wow, look at all that room. This board right here that goes into here that I'm going to use the front plate on. And the battery goes here. Of course, my battery hooks up here and here, positive, negative. I connect a B negative and a B positive. And I've taken the glass out of this side, cut this down, fit in there, and I come up with my vice grips and a jigsaw, and I got my cut in. Alright, I'm not totally sure how this is going to come out in edit, but I've had changes throughout this whole video. Maybe it's a good thing, because as I have progressed, everything has changed. And it's taken me about 3 days to get to this point, and it's been interesting. This is the power supply that came with this flame LED, so I can adjust it when I hook it up to my step up, step down buck converter. So for me, it's a good way to test without leaving the wires exposed. GFI, ground fault interrupter, in it. So let's see what we got for voltage. 3.89, 3.8 volts. Okay. That way when I'm adjusting this little guy, in the top of this, I have a lot of room, and they fit quite squarely in here. That's the back. So if that's the back, and this is where the wires are going to go, back here. Now, before I shoot my hot glue all over this, I'm going to heat it up. So let's warm it up. For the long wires, are going to go down to my charging unit, and I'm going to tap in here for this, which sends the exact amount of power I need to my LED flame light. See what we got? 368. I would rather lean on the low side. Alright, I've already tinned my wires. So let's see what we got. Positive and out negative. Well, as you see, I'm going to have to put a switch in there. Reason being is that it's a 3-mode. Okay. So I'll have to put a switch in line. Not a problem. Okay, as you saw when I hooked this up, the LED lit up and stayed on. This is going to be the on, off, and that's going to go to power the lights. And so this doesn't stay on the whole time. That when you tap the power, this light has like 3 different modes. There's no wire that goes from here to here. Alright, this should be the one. Here I have a single pole, single throw switch. When it's on this side, this and this makes a connection. When I put it to this side, the center again and this makes a connection. All I'm looking for is a split second of interruption. That's what engages or disengages one of these modes, is the interruption of power. And you can cycle through. Let's see if this works. Am I crazy? I'll find out. Alright, this is it. This actually works. This is how it looks when it's wired. And of course that is one line. And that's how this is wired. And this is the effect that you get. This is 3-mode. Steady on. Candle flash. And fluctuating. I knew this would work. I just felt it would. This is the screenshot you're gonna want, or the pause. Is I also need to make a switch for my power converter, because I don't want this running all the time. And when I put a switch in line with this, it'll also shut this off. So I won't need to worry about it. It'll shut both these items off. It's about as close to 3.8 as I want to get. I'm going to want to cut out some wood here to drop the switch into. I can always chisel out. Ooh. I like it. Now I've got an on-off. I'll still have to do a little bit more finagling, but I bet you this... Alright, I think I got it. Looks pretty flush, considering. And as you can see here, I had to chunk in a couple little divots so I could get my contacts to squeak in there. Kind of measured off what I needed. This plate was at the bottom on the inside of the lantern, so I need to make me a template. So let's see if this works. I like it. Now on this one, I need to solder to the inside of the connector. Okay, now this of course goes to the charging down here. This comes from the battery and goes into the voltage buck regulator, and I created a switch to it that when it's not in use I can shut it off, which also will shut off the light. And to test that, which we're gonna do, okay, there's 3/8 and there's off. Just what I wanted. It's gonna be good. Those are my power on, and then this controls the flame. This has to go to the flame. These are my 4 18650 cells, and these 2 wires here will run down the lantern and connect into my charger, as it will shut off when it reaches on average a charge of 4.2. On this I have a buck converter, which is going to wind up being a step down. I've adjusted it to kick out 3.8 volts. With some foamy pad, I made a template here, and I put it down on the inside and drilled a hole which this will cover, and it's to give open air space to these 2 pieces of electronics that will get warm, as you can see. And then I can plug in here to charge the batteries. And I took off the USB ports, and I took off the little lamp that was on it, a little LED light, because all I want to do is charge these batteries and run this light. Alright, screws, I'm going to screw that down with the little holes, and then I have another piece that goes on top that will cover now the next step. And I've got this screwed down, so what I plan to do, give myself a little more room here for the wire, get this glass in here that I just cut my finger on. Alright, so hopefully you can get the picture of what's going on here. Quick note as I'm working on this, the hot glue around the edges there did not hold up, so I put on the bottom of these some JB Quick Weld, rock solid. Alright, I got underneath this by finding where that little wire is and kind of worked it up, and wound up with a bigger screwdriver and worked it up, because it does come off quite easily. Once that's off, let's pop that wire. Should be able to pull this right through. There we go. And I'm going to test the output from this power supply to see how much voltage it takes to drive these lights. Now this is my answer to a quick test. And before I plug it in, I got these little guys. Let's do it this way. That's good. Plug this in. Not AC. 4.3 volts. I'm going to start off with 3.2 volts. .7, and I'm looking at how bright this top one is, and it's pretty bright. 3.7, so let's call it 3.8. Okay, 3.8 volts. 3.8 volts seems to be a sweet spot, and I think that's what I'll stick with. So I've placed my switch at, I got my button switch in here, and what I'm going to do is run some hot glue down in there. Spit on my finger a little bit. That'll set. Let that cool. And it calls for 4.3. That's a half a volt difference. And I would rather underrun it a half a volt than run it at its given 4.3. So that's good. Okay, I'm going to run my buck converter. I'm going to wrap it with some Captain tape just to protect it in case it comes loose inside its case. Cover this bad boy up so you don't see me struggle. Hang on a sec. Now before I seal up the top, I'm going to go ahead and screw this down so I can turn it upside down and get those wires in. So just temporarily. Not a problem. Okay, I had to jump ahead on a few of these things, but I got my light in, ran the wire down, under, and up here, and I used some of that bigger heat shrink wrap material. Everything's buried underneath this foam board, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn it on. So let's go with the back switch and the other switch. There she blows. Is that cool? Looks good. And it'll charge. Alright. I'm sorry I couldn't show you the last end of it, but it looks like, you know, I made a hole down here for the light, and I just stuck it in there, and it's nice and solid. I'm running the light up, like I said, in the back through that heat shrink, which I could kind of fix that a little bit, but for the most part, it's done. All I need to do now is screw my little guys in here to hold it on there, and then I can go show it off. And again, here's the finished product. I've got the battery. Yeah, hello. What are you doing?
Playing Roblox.
Yes, you are. And this is my final product of the evening. I've got it charging right now. And when I pull the charger, which is not easy to do with one hand. Then spin it around and turn it on. This is on. Okay, on. It has 3 settings, which is cool and cooler and coolest. Alright. Alright.
I like the fire.
Well, I love the fire. That was the idea of the whole thing. Okay, I'm back about 3.5 hours later, and it's running just as strong as it did when I first turned it on. Okay, I tell you what, it's been going 7.5 hours, and it's still going strong. So I'm just going to consider that this would burn all night long. Very happy with it. It turned out really good. And the addition of 4 laptop battery cells, 18650s, just makes it last forever. I just wanted to make a special note after all that time of being on, all those hours, even though, you know, that one back there is a reflection of the glass, I'm only getting 1 level of needed charge. So this is blowing my mind. It's telling me that this will charge in a couple of hours. This thing should run for 24 hours or maybe 18. Nonetheless, it uses very little power, and it's about 4 or 5 watts. It's just you know, superior build. And that's all, folks.